Hey there, planners. It is the eve of planner launch season, and we need a game plan. Big time. So go grab your planners and let's get planning. All right, I know myself and I love planners. I love planners and journals and notebooks and stationery. And I also know that as we wrap up the summer and progress through August of every year, we are getting closer to that magical time frame that is planner launch season. And that is a time frame where I am very vulnerable to make crazy purchases that make no sense at all and that I have no plan for actually using the things that I purchase. So I need a game plan. I need to understand and dig a little deeper, spend a little time in the recesses of my brain analyzing what is it that planning is doing for me? What do I want it to do? What do I need it to do? And really get a game plan together for how I'm going to be thinking about and approaching planning next year. I know it's August and it's too early, and I don't even use planners consistently throughout the year. I know that about myself, but this exercise will help me navigate planner launch season that is upon us and prevent me from wasting a bunch of money. So I encourage you to go grab a coffee, a tea, your pen, some scratch paper, a notebook, your journal, your planner, and come along on this journey with me so that we can progress into planner launch season without losing our minds. All right, so I have taken an Erin Condren notebook that is just ruled paper. I have printed out some questions for myself and taped them into the notebook and given myself some space to write out the answers. So I would encourage you to come along with me. Let's think about this together. I will tell you why I'm asking myself these things and, what does this prompt me to think about and how might this shape how I'm thinking about purchases of planners now and throughout the end of the year going into next year. But I would really encourage you to pause the video at sections. I'm going to pause it and do my journaling, and I encourage you to do the same. So we're going to start with the first question, which is, what areas of my life do I need tools, resources, and systems to help me stay organized? This is just going to be a list for me, and I'm really thinking about not just the things that I already have in place. It is important to take note of the things that you already have in place. For example, we use a Google Calendar for our family, and that helps us stay organized across the family with different events and activities, and that's a great tool that's already in place. I'm going to capture that. But I'm also going to capture areas that I may not necessarily have organization, tools, systems, resources in place right now, but I need to. And that's really that holistic list, and also helps me stay up to date in my planning system. So I'm going to make my list. You pause the video and make your list. What are the areas of your life that you need tools, resources, systems to help you stay organized? All right, so I have answered this first question for myself, which is, what areas of my life do I need those tools and resources to help me stay organized? I came up with a list of 10. So I'll start at the top. My faith study, my scripture study, my prayer journaling, all of that. I need some sort of systems and tools in place to help me capture what I want to capture and stay organized and track things there. In general, my monthly, weekly, and daily life, just where am I spending my time? What things do I have to do? Appointments that I have, tasks that I need to get done, some system for that. Work has to be my professional career, my job has to be a separate planning system because of the nature of my work. It cannot be integrated with my personal planning, so that's a standalone item. My broader family's life, so schedules, events, things like that are going on with my family members. My health, my goals, memory keeping, long-term reference info, and this is an example of something that I do not feel like I have a good system around right now, but I am feeling the need to have a system around that. Personal project planning, and that can be a number of types of projects, just things that have multiple steps and need. That can even include things like trip planning or, home improvement projects, things like that. And then personal study and learning, things that I am exploring and learning at my own pace on my own. So that is my list of 10. Your list maybe look very different. It may be shorter. It may be longer. One thing I do want to stress is don't think about this like I need 10 different planners. That's not necessarily what this is saying. This is really addressing the areas of my life where I need some sort of help from something, a tool, a system, a resource, something to help me gather the information that I need, process it correctly, and get the things out of it that I need, right? To remember them, to take action on them, to prepare, to, save and to express creativity, all of those things. These are the areas of my life that I need those tools in. Okay. The next question is, I want to spend just a minute very quickly at a high level thinking about what does being organized mean in each of these areas. So I want to answer things like, what does it include? When I say my health, what do I mean? Well, I mean some tracking. Tracking of what? Tracking of symptoms, tracking of my cycle, tracking of things like that. When I say my goals, what do I mean? Do I mean sitting down once a year and writing goals? What is it that I need there? So really going through and very briefly, because I don't have a lot of space, but I do want to spend just a minute thinking through what is it? What does it mean to be organized? What does it look like? What does it include to be organized in each of these areas? Just to give me a frame of reference as I keep going through the future questions that I have here. All right, so I'm going to pause the recording. You pause the video. Let's go give ourselves just a little bit of time to answer this question. All right, hopefully you can see the words that I've added here. If not, I'll just kind of walk through it because it is kind of a light blue. But to the question of what does it mean to be organized in each of these areas, I gave myself just a few prompts in each area. So for faith journaling, for example, I listed out the faith study and faith journaling, the things that I want to include there, like scripture study, notes, prayers, gratitude, memory verses. I want this to be flexible. And I did include in most of these a sort of a gauge of, does it need to be flexible or does it need to be structured to help me accomplish? Like, what does it look like when I come to it? For my monthly, weekly, daily life, this is really appointments, tasks, future log, meal plans, events, the don't forgets of life, and some memory keeping, a place to just jot down. This is with me, and I should probably put that in here too. This is with me all the time. For work, project actions, goals, personnel management, leadership development, all of that stuff. For my family life, it is events, travel, and it's for everyone to be able to see those things. It needs to be very structured and easy to use. For my health, it's mainly tracking. There are also some goals, record keeping, questions that I have, maybe some research. I should probably put that in here too. And it needs to be structured. And see, even as I'm going through, I'm thinking of more things. So give yourself time on this because and read over it. I maybe even read it out loud, and you could prompt yourself to think of some other things. For my goals, annual, quarterly, monthly reflection space, and it does need to be structured. Memory keeping is a creative space. It's about the family. There are pictures. It's flexible. Long-term reference info is really about the different areas of my life and record keeping. It needs to be searchable. It needs to be accessible. And it needs to be structured so that it's easy to navigate. Should probably add that in there too. Okay. Project planning for personal needs to be structured. It's probably going to be long-term and organized by project. And I say long-term because it could span over multiple years. And then personal study and learning needs to be very flexible. It's mostly note-taking. It can be organized by topic, probably longer term, and it needs to be easy to use. So that just gives me a little hint into how I'm thinking about each of these areas of my life. Now we move on to the next step, which is accessing my current planning in each of these areas. What are the tools and resources and systems that I currently have in place? What's working and what is not? So I'm actually going to take these 10, write them again over here, and answer this question for each one of them. So you pause the video, you do the same thing. Be thinking about your current planning. If the answer is, I don't have planning in this area, fine, capture that. And if you do, really spend some time to think about what is working for you and what is not working for you. This is an important step, and it might take some time to answer this. So give yourself plenty of time. Really think about what you're currently using. All right, so I gave myself this question. My answers were actually really interesting the way this worked out. So I listed the 10 areas that I had identified here as areas that I needed resources, tools, systems to stay organized. And I just went through and I used the two symbols, plus or delta. Delta being where I think there are gaps, plus being where things are working, to sort of analyze and evaluate at a very quick, high level how things are going in each of these areas. And what was so great about this is I was able to identify 3 areas where I don't need to do anything because what I have going on is working great. And I can sort of take those off the table as I'm considering changes to my planner system or launches. I don't need anything. And those 3 areas, I'm actually going to mark them off on the first page. Those 3 areas are work. So in my work planning, I have a system right now that uses OneNote. And I have a couple videos on this channel about how I've set that up, but that is such a fantastic system. I also keep a notebook for meeting minutes, sort of a commonplace book for work that's really just sort of a scribbly intake type thing. But ultimately, all of my work is captured in OneNote, and that is working so well. There's nothing I need to purchase. There's nothing that would be launched or released that would improve in that area because I don't have anything that needs to be changed. So I am taking that off the list. For my family life, just schedules being easy to maintain, we use a family Google Calendar, and that is serving the purpose wonderfully. It's very simple to add things to. Everybody's got a color code. I also have a video on this channel where I talk about how I set that up, and I'll have these videos listed down in the description box in case you want to go check them out. But very easy to set up, very easy to maintain, very easy to use. It's serving the purpose, so I don't need anything there. There's nothing new that needs to happen there. And then the other area is in memory keeping. I'm actually really enjoying the memory keeping tool that I have, which is an Erin Condren vertical weekly planner, life planner, and that is going really well, and it's flexible and it's fun and it's creative and it's beautiful, and I've got pictures in there and little stories, and it's just the perfect amount of space for the information that I want to put in there. So I don't need anything else there. So I have eliminated 3 items from my list that I don't really need to think about as I go into planning for this year. And you'll see my notes are scribbly and messy, and that's okay. This is for me. I'm sharing it with you so that you can get an idea and be able to walk through this exercise for yourself, but do it in whatever format you want to do. Nobody else needs to see how you're attacking this. The areas that I identified that were working and were not working in each of the other areas were very enlightening for me. It's going to help me determine. So one thing that jumps off the page from this exercise as an example, right now I have my health, my goals, and my personal project planning embedded in this tool. Which is my life, sort of my day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month life, all of my activities. This is an area that changes for me about on a quarterly basis. I switch up how I'm using this tool, which means that I am having to repeat a lot of these things from health and goals and project planning because those are more longer term items that I want to see across the whole year. that is inefficient. And so I really need a place to extract these items out. I'm just going to mark those with a different color as I'm talking about it. I want to pull my health, my goals, and my personal planning, my project planning out of my life day to day, week to week, month to month, because I end up rewriting a lot of the same information. And this is really something that these items can get lost in this day to day, week to week, month to month planning. So that I don't know that I would have come to that realization had I not taken the time to walk through this exercise. So there also is at least one area where I don't really have anything in place, and that is my long-term reference info. There's not really a system in place for that, so that's sort of a build from scratch item. So I'll really have to think about how I attack that. But yeah, this was really, really helpful for me. I won't walk through all the words on the page, but definitely just think about going through this question with a plus delta sort of mindset. What's working, what's not, and you will be amazed at how things sort of come together and become obvious as you walk through that. Okay, let's look at the next question. All right, so the next question is to define what tools, resources, systems are needed and how they're going to function. And what I want to go after with this are questions like, how much time can I spend working on these systems? Because that's going to tell me, do I need something pre-printed or do I want something very flexible that I'm putting my own, a blank notebook that I'm putting my own structure in? Is portability important? Are there things that can be combined, or things that can't? Like, could I combine work with personal? For me, the answer is no, because I have information that can't be combined. There, some confidentiality stuff. Do I want it to be structured or unstructured? And I've already started to answer some of those questions here in the other parts, but I'm going to pull it all together here. How do I want to see things? Do I want to see things in a weekly view? Do I want to see things in a daily view? So really, in each area, thinking about how is that going to function, and maybe even a little bit of about how it interacts with the other parts and pieces. This is initial jotting. The next step in this is to actually go look for options and make a selection to continue designing, not really make a purchase. We're not making purchases at this point, but to sort of make a selection to continue to work through this process. So I'm going to walk through this first part where I'm defining what tools, resources, systems are going to be needed and how they will function. What is the functionality of each of those systems? All right, so while the magic of filming makes it seem as though I have only been gone a few seconds, it's actually been an entire week since the last time I was filming. And some things came up, it got me distracted. I needed to think about a couple of areas a little bit longer when defining the system that I wanted. And so it's actually been a whole week, and I've had lots of time to work on this, and I've been coming back to this several times, in the evenings, just kind of thinking through this and adding notes and really thinking about the system that I want to build. So what I've come up with, it's interesting where I'm landing, and that it underscores the value of this process to me. So for my faith study and journal, I think what I would really like to do is combine these two. I want to pull more of my faith study and journal into my day-to-day planning, and that is really reflective of other ways that I've really tried to incorporate faith into everything I do, my spiritual life into everything I do. A few years ago, I moved from picking a word of the year, setting my goals, and then finding a Bible verse that related to that goal. I totally flipped it, and I found a Bible verse that was the goal for that area of life, right? So just really pulling in my faith and spiritual life into every aspect. And that's kind of what I'm feeling drawn to do here. So when it comes to just my day-to-day planning, the tasks I need to do, the schedules, all of that stuff. I am looking for something that is a balance between portable when I need it to be. I don't need to take this everywhere with me. I have my phone. I have a Google Calendar that I use as a future log. I can always have that available with me. So I don't need to take it everywhere, but I do like to take it some places, whether I'm traveling or, going to be gone for the day, things like that. So I need that flexibility for it to be portable, but also I need enough space where I can be creative, I can be messy, it can be very structured one week, or it can just be nothing the next week. And so I really need that flexibility from day to day. I can set it up for the month, and then I can update it for the weeks, the week ahead, and spend a little time each week. I do not want to, thinking about function, I do not want to need to be drawing things in every day, like a daily spread. I don't need to spend a lot of time setting up every day. I won't do that. What I'll typically do is what I would like to do, and what falls into my natural rhythm is to spend time setting up for a month, spend a little time thinking about the week ahead and plotting out the week ahead, and then capturing notes, like daily logging as the day goes on where it's necessary. So that's how that will function. And so that makes my faith study fit right into here, where I'm doing my prayers, my Bible study notes versus gratitude. Like, it just will fit right into there, those two together. So I am thinking analog. I should probably note that. For these two, I'm thinking analog. And for size-wise, I'm thinking like a B6 or an A5. Because while they are big enough for creative and flexibility space, but they can still be portable. Especially the B6 can be very portable. So that's kind of what I'm thinking there. For health goals and projects, I really think I need 3 separate notebooks that are just devoted to I want these things to be analog because I want the freedom to be able to add what I need to add. Things change in these areas from month to month. So I want the flexibility to be able to change those things. I also want them to remain very consistent for the year. So while this may change on a quarterly basis, I want this to be very consistent for the year. For projects, I've listed out, like, it depends on the project that I'm working on at that time. I'll want like notes and some project plan pages, some brainstorming. So a little bit different than the other two. These other two will mainly be tracking and goal related monthly spreads, probably not getting down into weekly or daily here. That will be located here. So I'm thinking 3 notebooks here. I'm not quite sure about the size. I want them to be able to last at least all year, maybe even longer. I could see projects being even longer than a year because some projects span multiple years. So these 3 are really like 3 separate notebooks. Let me just mark this here. And then I think for these 3, oh, my pen is kind of ooky. I'm thinking 3 separate notebooks. And I even thought about like disc or rings, but I don't know. I'm still sort of debating. Yeah, let me write that down. I'm not a huge fan of either disc or rings, just because I find it to be cumbersome to work with. I don't know. I've got to do some thinking there. And then long-term reference item, I really think this needs to be digital. And I am a huge fan of OneNote, so I'm really thinking OneNote for here. I think I want to set up a system where I can move things out of these areas or even this final area around personal learning that become reference materials into this long-term storage in OneNote. And I've talked about wanting to do this before. If you guys are interested in seeing how I set this up, this is going to become a project for me to set this up, because I also think it's something that I will at some point in time want to share with my family members so that they can access and contribute. So I really feel like this is going to be a big big project at some point in time. So easy to search. OneNote certainly meets that. Shareable with family members, that would be OneNote, something that can be consistent over the course of a lifetime. So I'm really thinking that's OneNote. That's going to be where that information is stored. And I do use the Para system that comes from Building a Second Brain, and that would be perfect for this type of structure. So if you'd like to hear more about that or see maybe bits and pieces of how I'm thinking about that project, let me know and I could do a separate video on that. For personal learning, I started using a commonplace notebook and common placing techniques this year for personal learning. I definitely want to continue that, but what I would like to do is have a larger notebook, be larger, like as in size, not number of pages, but larger in size, and also be a little bit broader. I was very narrow with the topics that I wanted to include in my commonplace notebook. I want to be broader with the topics, and I need to focus on developing some sort of key system, color coding, something like that, but continue having a place to just capture the things that I'm learning and studying, things like that. So that's what I'm thinking. So if I look at, options, systems, I think I feel pretty good about OneNote for this as a system. I feel pretty good about that. I feel pretty good about using notebooks for these three areas. I just need to figure out whether it's rings or what is the format, but that gives me some direction for these three. So we've got direction there. For this, I'm thinking like a B5 notebook, and that would give me enough space to really, because when I'm studying something, I take a ton of notes. I think with my pen. That's just the way I am. If you couldn't tell that, then you haven't spent much time on the channel, but I definitely think with my pen. So B5, I think that's like that 7x10 size. Very close to this size, actually. But I think that's going to be, and it could even be an Erin Condren style notebook. So that's an option too. Those are a couple options there. So I've got that. For this one, I think like a B6 or an A5 would be a really good answer to these two on a quarterly basis. So at least I would start out the year. So of course this doesn't tell me brands or, whether it's spiral bound or book bound. Like I still have things to research, but this gives me direction so that when planner launches start to occur, I'm not just buying everything that I can find. One thing that really stands out to me from this is I don't need any pre-printed planners like a Hobonichi Cousin or, I don't see anywhere in this list the need to have a pre-printed planner. Every bit of this is blank notebook, bullet journal style, which is really something I continuously come back to. Now, I do know there's flexibility when it comes to structure versus unstructured in this area where I'm talking about my day-to-day life. And that has so much to do with the season. In the summer, I tend to be so busy, like the middle of the year, I am so busy typically that I need more structure because I genuinely don't have time for months to be setting things up, like even, once a month sitting down and setting things up. So I will typically transition to something that's more pre-printed when those times hit. But I'm seeing a lot of blank notebooks, bullet journal styles right now in the system that I'm thinking about. Okay, let's look at the last set of questions. And this is where we're actually going to do some artwork. We're going to map out how the tools and systems, and I've got, even though I don't have like brands and specific products, I have enough information here to help me actually visualize how are all these things going to work together. Like over the course of a month, how am I going to touch and interface with all of these pieces of my system, and how are they going to relate to each other? Because I want to avoid duplicity or wasted time, and I want to make sure that all the parts that I think I've identified actually work. And as I do that, I may find that I need to refine my list. And maybe I already have something that I hadn't thought about that actually I need to use, or I need to actually add something else. So really mapping it out visually. I'm going to take a little bit of time and walk through that and see what I come up with. You do the same. All right, last step. This one took me a little bit because I did spend quite a bit of time sort of drawing and mapping things out. And I'll just comment, it's not pretty artwork, and that's fine with me. This is more about functionality for me, and I would encourage you to approach it the same. This is get your plan together so that you can survive planner launch season. It doesn't need to be frameable artwork. So I just started with what I think is the core of my system, and that is what I had listed here as my main planner. Okay, so this is my monthly plans, my daily logging, my weekly plans, actions, events, all of that stuff that I need to get done. The thing that I would like to keep with me most of the time, and the thing that I'm referencing and touching most frequently. Okay, so I started with that, and then I just listed out all the other tools and systems that I've identified and how they interface with this plan. So for example, one item that I didn't really identify as I was going through this is my family Google Calendar. Actually, I may have, did I put that on the front page and just say that I didn't need that? Yeah, so I did. I had that as number 4 originally. That's Google Calendar, and I said no change there needed. But I did pull it in here because I do have to interface with that. So I use that on an ongoing basis to feed into, I've got this one directional arrow to feed into my daily, weekly, monthly planner. I've got, as I discussed, setting up 3 different notebooks: goals, projects, and health. For goals, I'm using the goal planner on a monthly basis to set up my monthly goals, and then those are feeding into actions in my planner as needed. I have my project planner that I'm using as needed. This is a 2-way arrow because I may identify a project that's needed here that I put into my project planner, or my project planner may identify actions that need to go in my plans. And then health, I'm touching on a weekly basis, at a minimum a weekly basis, maybe more. But there's a 2-way arrow here because I'm using my health planner to set any daily or weekly actions, and then also using my planner to inform my tracking that's happening here in my health planner. All right, and then I have my long-term storage down here, which is really, I'm touching at least once a month. I'm updating this, and information coming into here is coming from all of these areas. Anything that I identify that needs to be tracked, information, something that happened, the washing machine broke and we bought a new one, like all of that stuff is going into here, into long-term storage, which is a OneNote system. So I've got, yes, that's a laptop. Just go with it. I didn't claim to be an artist. And then the other piece of my system up here that I identified is my commonplace study. And you'll see that sort of set aside, and I've got this as needed because I don't put a lot of pressure on myself about how and when I use this. I pick it up when I need it, when I feel like I need a place to capture notes from self-study. I did take just a little bit of time and map out a month routine and a weekly routine to see how these, like I've got good, indications of how things will work together, but I did want to just sort of write out, like, where do I set up the month? How do I set up the week? That's the end of my sort of planning session. And here's why I think this is valuable, because there are going to be so many Hobonichi previews have already started. I've seen some Sterling Ink previews. Happy Planner has launched. Erin Condren is getting ready to launch their petite planners, which I am such a sucker for. I love those things. There's just so many launches. Other planners I haven't even thought about. I'm getting contacted by different companies who I've worked with in the past that want to share planners and stuff, have me share those with you guys, and I love doing that. But before we get all crazy about purchasing, I think it's really important to just spend time defining your planning system. What is the system that you have? What's working? What's not? And what do you need? And then when you think about what you need, you see that I didn't ever in this process identify specific products because that really wasn't my intent. We're not making purchases yet. That's not the intent of this exercise. The intent is to think about function and, form and how it would work in the complete picture of the system, so that when the shiny, beautiful new planner is launched, I can quickly come back here and see how would that fit in my system? Would it fit in my system? So if I absolutely loved an A6 Hobonichi cousin, does it have a place in this system? Now, if I want to buy it because it's beautiful and I don't know how it's going to fit in the system, but it's so beautiful, I just want to buy it, and that's what I want to spend my money on, fine. I love planners, and I know many of you do too, so that's perfectly fine too. But this helps to keep you from trying to force your planning into tools that don't actually work for you, and then becoming frustrated because you can't find planner peace. So it's messy. It's just for me. I hope that you were able to walk through this too and get value out of it. If so, I'd love to hear about that down in the comments below. If you do something different to help yourself get prepared for how you're going to plan and what tools you're going to need, what resources you're going to need, and how you're going to make planner purchases, I would love to hear that in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going there so that we can learn from each other and share good ideas with each other. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to Planning Annie for more content like this, and as always, thanks for planning with me.